All right, today I am excited to be joined by Allison Roberts, who is the CEO and founder of Burst Fitness. And I smile when I say it because we didn't quite. I was actually suggesting some names when you were coming up with names, and I was suggesting Shiver. But then you and Austin rightly pointed out that Shiv Her might have negative prison connotations. And yeah, probably wouldn't be the greatest name for a fitness app. But I liked the idea Shiver just because this whole concept of this uh, high burst, high intensity kind of exercise, and you first introduced it to me as like shivering. So, and I want you to talk about that because I think that is kind of this cool aspect of it that like shivering for a minute is like a good form of exercise, which actually was kind of blowing my mind. But I got to say first, too, as part of my introduction to Allison, that Allison is a phenomenal individual, very driven, very accomplished, and is a fantastic entrepreneur. She's the type of person that everybody that meets her falls in love with her, wants to support her, wants to work with her, wants to be a part of whatever she's doing just because she's so enthusiastic and kind of gets everybody excited and stoked about whatever she's working on. So tell us, Allison, about yourself. Tell us about Burst, and maybe tell us about Faster Size, which was kind of the first version of Burst that I was initially introduced to when we met.
Yeah, totally. So thanks so much for having me. Super great to be here. Yes, we have had quite the journey with what is now known as Burst Fitness. So, man, a little bit about me. I went to BYU. I was the vice president of the Marriott School of Business there. And then I worked at three different Fortune 500 companies before quitting to build this company full time. And it's been the whole entrepreneurship journey is just one wild ride. uh, I had kind of started out with this whole concept because of my pregnancy, and that kind of just spurred on the business. So again, background: I was a national elite athlete in track and cross country, so top 100 in my events. I did the 1 mile, the 2 mile, and the 5K. So I am very accustomed to working out. I used to work out up to 4 hours a day. I would run 50 miles a week regularly. Um, I just I mean, I was all about the mentality of like no pain, no gain, push through your barriers, like, just go hard. And I love doing that. But then I started my career. I was working full time. I then had my baby. I was trying to buy a house. I was trying to start a little side hustle. Like, there was very little free time in my schedule all of a sudden. And so I was thinking to myself, like, okay, how can I recover from my pregnancy while also just doing all of these things that are high priority for me? Because in my pregnancy, I had gained about 30 pounds, and it was hard to get that kind of idea in my head, like, I am now heavier than healthy. Like, I am now overweight. I am now I'm not the fit girl anymore. And like, that was kind of hard for my psyche. Because of that, and because I had so little free time, I started looking into, what are some effective ways to start losing weight very easily? Like, is there anything I can do that's not going to take up a lot of time? And so my dad's a medical doctor. And so he's been researching, thyroid metabolism, things like that for a long time. And I started looking into stuff. It's called VILPA in some organizations, or QBE, so quick burst exercise, or I can't remember what VILPA stands for. But anyway, it's just really high intensity exercises for 1 minute at a time, split up throughout your day. And so I was like, I can do that easy. So I started doing these 1 minute bursts of exercise at my desk, at home in my living room, like wherever I found myself. I just did these exercises, and I found the weight just like flew off. So those 30 pounds, I lost those 30 pounds in 3 months. And I just could not believe that they came off that quickly. I was only doing about like 5 to 10 minutes of exercise a day. And because of my background, Like, I know how hard it is to move the scale. Like, I know how hard it is. And so I guess my brain was having a hard time recognizing or like understanding what I was actually seeing in results. So, anyway, I was curious. I was like, okay, this seemed to work really well. So, what's the absolute limit of this quick burst exercise program? What's like the most intense way that I can show people that this exercise program can go toe to toe with traditional programs? And I was like, do I do a triathlon? Not really, because you're not doing like long distances. I wouldn't do like a marathon. I could do a bodybuilding competition. Which, mind you, like, I've never done a bodybuilding competition. This was totally outside my comfort zone. Definitely did not grow up wearing bikinis. Like, never had a spray tan. So anyway, I was like, you know what? I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna enter a bodybuilding competition, and I'm gonna show the world that this program can go toe to toe with weightlifting. And anyway, I don't know what I was thinking, but I signed up for one like 6 weeks before it actually happened. And yeah, I competed. I think I placed like middle of the pack. There were like 12 women in my category, and I ended up placing like sixth out of 12 or something like that.
So you signed
Anyway,
up 6 weeks before it started. That's
yep.
so crazy.
Yeah, 6 weeks before it started. And at the end of the day, I entered the bodybuilding competition 8 months after having my baby. So I entered the competition in less time than it took to actually grow my child. So anyway, I was shocked at the results. I was shocked because the women that I was competing with against, like on the stage, obviously they're beautiful, they're ripped. I mean, they've put in a ton of work, but like they're working out 2 or 3 hours every day. And they're going so hard on counting their calories and their macros. And like they put so much time and energy into this that like I almost felt like a fraud showing up and being like, yeah, that sounds really hard. It's like, that's not what I did, but I'm not going to say that. I think one of the funny illustrations, though, to like really drive home the point was like we gave each other high fives, like, you did a great job, yay. And I just remember them giving me a weird look because my hands were so soft. Because when you're a bodybuilder, you're lifting weights, and so your hands get really, really tough, and you got all these calluses. But like I had no reason to do that, so my hands were baby soft, and they were just like, what is this chick? Anyway, so that experience was just so stark for me and so surprising and so inspiring. I was like, I know that there are other people out there who would love to have the kind of results that I've seen with the amount of time and energy I've put in, right? Like there are people who don't want to make fitness their entire lives, but they want to see results. And so that's why I decided, I'm going to start training people on this. So I first built what I call the paper prototype. So phone calls, text messages, Zoom calls. I taught people how to do these exercises that way. And then through those experiences, I built a template, I designed what the mobile platform should do to be able to keep them engaged and help them do the program through an algorithm. And then once I had that design, I took it, we had a dev team build it out. And so that was version 1 of the platform, which we launched just over a year ago in June of 2022. So that's kind of like the journey that we've gotten up to this point. We're now building out version 2.0, and this is going to have additional layers. So our current platform has, you enter, you go through an onboarding survey, which will ask you your goals, any injuries that we should be aware of, what your schedule looks like, and then we'll give you a customized daily schedule and give you reminders to do your exercises throughout the day. And we have education on there as well, some recipes, things like that. Our version 2.0 is going to have gamification. So we're going to have badges that you can earn for your exercises. You can earn coins so you can buy swag from the company. We're also going to have competitions between people, so you can be on a leaderboard with your friends or with the entire Burst Fitness universe to see how you're ranking against other people. So that's what we're building in to the platform now, and that's why we're fundraising. So anyway, it's been a fun journey. I hope I answered your question.
Well, it's a great background, but I do have some interesting questions about that. You said you wanted to show the whole world, what was possible. So when you entered that weightlifting contest, at that point in time, were you thinking this might be a company or this might be something I could sell, but in order to prove to other people that it's something, I need to do this contest. Was that your mindset, or what was really the driver behind, or was the competition like, I just want to prove it to myself that I can do something crazy with this QBE kind of format?
Yeah, I think it was twofold. Probably the primary motivator was that I wanted to show the world what was possible. Um, because like if I love fitness and I've always wanted to work in fitness, but I knew that if I was going to build a fitness program around an entirely new category of exercise, I had to have a very strong testimonial about it before I was going to do that, right? Like I'm not going to take, years of very intense athletic training and just throw that out the window and be like, "Oh, if you eat just grapefruit, you're going to lose a lot of weight." It's like that's the stupidest thing I've ever heard.
Yeah.
So I knew that I needed to have very strong conviction, and I needed to have a really, pardon my French, but like a kick-ass story to be able to
Yeah.
show people what's possible. Um, but then, yeah, I mean, I'm always down to push myself. Like, I love pushing myself. I just finished my first Spartan race, like 2 Saturdays ago, and that's like the
Nice.
most recent way that I've pushed myself. But I realized, like, as a person, for me, I have to do things intensely. Like, I have to go as hard as I possibly can, because if I don't, I just have so much pent up aggression in my soul that like it will start to leach into other parts of my life. Like I have to do something athletically challenging so that I don't get frustrated with my kids, so that I don't pick fights with my husband, so that I don't get mad at my neighbors. Like it's
Just channeling your intensity in a positive direction. That's
yes,
great.
exactly. It's really important too.
Yeah.
So,
Well, what I think is interesting about your story, and every fitness program that I've ever been introduced to, and I've been introduced to a lot. I mean, I've had my own challenges because, like you, well, not I can't put myself in your category. I was an athlete in high school and early in college, but not nationally ranked. I mean, I loved sports, but I wasn't awesome at sports, but I loved it, and I was very active. And I ran track, played soccer, played basketball, baseball, and so I loved being physically active. And then at some point in my later adult life, my metabolism like completely changed, and I couldn't just eat whatever I wanted to like I did when I was younger. And I started gaining a lot of weight, and I put on a lot of weight. And so over the years, I've tried various programs to lose that weight, and some things have worked well, some things haven't worked well. But I bring that up to say almost every program does have this big promise or this big before and after, or lots of testimonials or lots of things to kind of say like look, this person lost 100 pounds, or this person lost 50 pounds, or this is the program because of this. And what's interesting about yours is, like, I agree with you that the weightlifting contest is a phenomenal, it's a really amazing story, and it's a great way to kind of kick off this. But the other thing that's interesting is, it's not like you had never exercised before. And so for your own personal perspective, you had this contrast, this comparison of the traditional, really intense athletic approach of eating incredibly healthy and working out, 3 or 4 hours a day in pursuit of your goals that you achieved as an athlete. And then suddenly there was this QBE thing that you were running, this experiment, and you're like, oh my gosh, this is as effective, if not more effective, than all the stuff that I was doing before. And yet I can do it in 5 minutes a day or 10 minutes a day or something. And compared to, you know, for the average person, who's got a job, who's got kids, who's got lots of responsibilities, um, working out even just an hour a day is a huge commitment. I mean, it is tough. Take it from me. And to get to the 2 or 3 hours, that the people who are like super ripped and look really good, like that just, you have to make a lot of other sacrifices in your life. You have to just kind of commit that the gym is kind of your life. And
Mm-hmm.
so the promise of this, of being able to do get like significant results in such a short period of time, almost seems too good to be true. So you've got your story, to kind of say, well, here's what happened for me. How has that, like, since then, you do this contest, you're like, okay, that worked. How do you then take this idea that's in your head, this thought, like, maybe I can productize this, maybe I can turn this into a company? Like, what was that process like? How did you actually turn that into a company?
Yeah, no, that's a great point. I think so. We're creating a category, right? By building Burst Fitness, this is a category creation process because nobody out there is saying shiver, right? We're gonna shiver everybody, like nobody. And that's a good and a bad thing because
Well, I
we
was saying it, and then you guys said shiv her. Yeah, that's not a good thing. So let's talk about something else. But yeah, no. When you first told me, like, yeah, you can shiver for a minute, and that does this amazing stuff inside your body, I was like, no way, you're crazy. Like that, I wasn't buying it. So, and we'll circle back to this because we got to come back to, like, you were actually explaining to me before, the science behind what happens in your body with the mitochondria and stuff when you're shivering.
yeah.
But yeah, anyway, so yeah, you're trying to productize this thing that kind of sounds too good to be true.
Yeah, so it's funny because you when you're creating this category, you have to understand like how are people going to benefit from what you're building, right? A lot of people, like the people that we're trying to benefit, we've kind of dialed in on our target customer, and it's basically women. We largely focus on women who are interested in losing 20 to 40 pounds, and their schedules are very chaotic. So they probably have like multiple children. They might be working one or two jobs. They might be a single parent. I mean, just overwhelmed with just the load that they have to carry. Um, Having a fitness option like ours is not only very beneficial, but sometimes it's the only thing that they can realistically manage in their schedule. And that's where we really shine because we're not right now, we're not going to focus on these women who have a Peloton and the time to use it. We're not going to focus on these women who are already dedicating like an hour to 2 hours of working out time and all of this. Like, if you've already got something in your schedule that works, awesome. We're going to target the other 80% of the American adult women population and globally, but we're focusing here to start with. We're going to focus on the vast majority of women who do not have those opportunities or do not have that kind of time, right? So I think building the company, we had to realize who are we focusing on and how do we make this exactly what they want, right? You got this amazing idea, but how do you turn it into something you can sell? I went through the gamut trying to figure out how to actually monetize this because what do? Do you train trainers and you send them into rec centers? Do you set up studios and teach people like you would at a Weight Watchers or something? Do you license this to, physical therapists? Do you like, I mean, I thought of no less than 14 different business models for this idea. Okay. Nightmare. So then you have to kind of narrow it down. It's like, okay, we are an incredibly helpful tool for this set of women. Okay. How do they want to consume it? From them, they told us, well, I want something that can go with me wherever I am. I want it to be in my phone. So, because I take my phone with me everywhere, I'm not going to have my computer and I'm not going to go to a doctor's office or to an actual gym. That's just not going to be good for me. Okay. So, digital, done.
And
Then
you're
they told
getting
us,
all this from just lots of conversations with your target market, which I think is the key point here, right?
yes.
It's the it's the ideal customer discovery thing. Is you got a lot of different potential business models. How do you figure out which one is probably the right one? Well, you dial in your customer, your target customer, your ideal customer, which you did, which is phenomenal. You start asking them tons of questions, doing lots of customer discovery, and this is what's leading you, instead of going through all these other channels. Okay, it's got to be something on their phone, it's got to go with them, it's got to be kind of personal to them. They don't want to do it with a trainer. They don't want to do it in a gym.
Yep. It makes a huge
That's awesome.
difference because like now I don't have to try to figure out how to do like 20 things in at the same time, right? When you can focus your energies on like one particular channel, it doesn't mean that you'll never be able to do this. Like me personally, my vision, you're asking what do we want in 5 years? In 5 years, I want to have a mobile platform that is the premier digital fitness brand globally. That's what I want because I feel that what we have to offer as a program and the science behind it is far superior to anything that I have seen on the market.
Hmm.
And I firmly believe that. What we have to offer in terms of return on investment, both time and money, I think we blow everyone out of
The
the water.
bang for the buck, right? It's the bang for the buck.
Exactly.
And what I think is smart about what you're saying is it's not like you have to give up on this total world domination plan, but you start with, I know my ideal customer, what's the simplest, most, digestible thing for them? Where do we start? And we can build towards like the ultimate dream, but we're gonna start with exactly what our customers are telling us they need in the simplest form.
Exactly. Yeah. I mean, we'll branch out into these other methodologies to help people in all different channels. And we've had people ask for that. It's like, please, like, I would love to apply your science into what we're doing for physical therapy, right? And I think that's
Mm-hmm.
great, but that is not where we're going to start. We got to focus. We got to
Yeah.
focus. So
So now
anyway,
you're like, okay, now I got to build an app. You're not a technical person. How did you start taking that feedback and turning it into a product?
so first went to a company called Buildfire. So they're basically like a Wix for apps. You pay like a lump sum up front, a few $1,000s, and they'll take features like chunks of code that they've already built and they'll pull them together in order to create this little package of an app. And so that was our first version. And it was rough. It was kind of a rough prototype, but it proves that people wanted it. I was shocked every time I had someone sign up because I was like, wow, like you're gonna pay for that? Because it
Okay,
was
so I that's an interesting. I was going to ask you. You didn't weren't giving it for free. You weren't trying the freemium model. Like right out of the gate, you were charging for the app, and it
yep.
wasn't. I mean, it was a kind of a rough version of the app. You're like, well, let's see if people will pay for the rough cut.
And they did.
Hmm.
And I was shocked. I called it our crap app. um, because like it was brutal. But what I realized is like the people who love my product, they really do love it, and they love what this program can do for them in their lives. And so while my actual product, the interface is really crappy and it's not a good experience, they love the promise of what my program has to offer. And so if I can make the actual interface match the promise of the program, then I will have found Nirvana. so, so yeah, we started out with that version, and then we brought on a CTO, and he coded out the next stage of of the app, and that's what we launched last June.
Was he doing that just straight for equity, or were you
Yeah,
just taking some of your savings and paying him like hourly, or
yeah. So it was sweat equity, and then I got a loan from my parents to be able to pay him a salary so that he can stay afloat. Um, and then, we just did the best that we could, like trying to stay scrappy. And then we started getting revenue, which helped as
yeah?
well.
So some
But
friends and family. Did your parents get equity, or was it just a straight loan that you were going to pay them back, no equity?
I gave them some equity as
Okay.
well. Yeah.
Okay. So scraped together, then started getting a little bit of revenue, and then how
And
did it
then,
start to progress?
yeah. So we started getting like, 17, 19, 25, 55% month over month growth rate
Hmm.
for our platform and like the revenue, our ARR. So it's growing really well. And then we realized like, okay, we have proven that this model works, but we realize that there are some holes in the customer experience. And this is what they're asking for. So that's why I mentioned like gamification, being able to do this with your friends, Because once you get the external motivations involved inside of a program like this, as well as the internal motivation of losing weight, that's where the real staying power comes from. That's where somebody's going to want to sign up for multiple years. That's where they're going to want to be around using your product over the long term, instead of just like industry standard is 3 months on a mobile platform for weight loss or fitness. Most competitors can only keep their users for 3 months. Luckily, we are already keeping people on average for 6 months once they become customers. So that's great. But we want to be able to keep them even longer, and that's where we want to bring in the gamification. So we're doing the best that we can to fundraise and to build out this additional version. And that is when we're really going to hit the growth phase and try to push more energy and time and effort into the advertising piece and things like that. But we are still in our building mode to build like a world-class experience.
Oh, that's awesome. Tell me, when I first met you, it was called Faster Size, which I thought was interesting, but it's a long name. What prompted kind of the rebrand? And can you talk about was it customer feedback? Was it just kind of your own thinking? How did you go through that process?
Oh man. So Faster Size, I did come up with this name with my dad, and we were just thinking like it's like faster exercise. It's faster size. Yes. Like it we just we thought
So it was
like
literally like a 5-minute conversation that came about.
we thought about this for a while, but
Okay.
like we were just like we can't lose like and it's funny, I started working on this whole idea when I was 23. So I was pretty young, stars in my eyes, very little knowledge of the industry, but every confidence that I would succeed anyway. So yeah,
Sometimes
we're like
that's a good thing, right? You don't
right.
know what you're getting into, so you're willing to do it. If you knew what the road looked like ahead, you might be too like, I'm not going to do it. Although you are a glutton for punishment, so you would probably have still done it. But 9 out of 10 entrepreneurs, that naivete is actually a good thing, because if we would have known how bad it was going to be, we would have never done it in the first place, right?
Right. Well, and I just thought like, oh, it's so perfect. Faster size. Everyone's gonna love this brand. It's gonna be perfect. And then what caused the rebrand kickoff was like realizing, well, first of all, we brought Austin on, and he's definitely a brand guy. He's a lot more aware of like what brands mean to people. So he started talking about it like, maybe we should ask people like, do they like your brand? Do they know how to spell your brand? Do they know like what it means? And so we started taking surveys and talking to people, and we realized most people cannot spell it. There's like 1 out of every 10 people who can spell the word faster size. That's a big problem when your primary growth channel is word of mouth, right? That's going to be a huge sticking factor for us, right? It might not be a huge deal if you are a B2B SaaS company and all of your referrals are through a web portal, right? Maybe it doesn't matter if they remember your name, but for us, 100%, they have to know what we are and how to find us. So then we started thinking, okay, well, what can we name ourselves? And we started thinking about it. We're like, our category is quick burst exercise. Wouldn't it be amazing if we could call ourselves just burst fitness or something like that? And this was after probably a month of trying to think through different names and coming up with just tons of
I
terrible
think,
ideas.
yeah, that's during that process is where I threw the shiver in as an option, right? So
Which, to be fair, like shiver, it's very close because our exercises are shivering, but then you start to think about it how someone else would interpret it.
yeah,
And this
yeah,
was
it was
a key
funny.
learning that I had was like, you have to think about your brand from the perspective of your customer. Like, what is it going to mean to them? It doesn't matter. I mean, it kind of matters, but it doesn't really matter what you think about it. If you're
Yeah,
in love with your brand, it really matters what your customer thinks.
yeah.
So after that, we started doing surveys, and we figured out like everyone loves burst fitness. It's a 1 syllable dictionary word, so we're not making anything up. People know how to spell burst, right? And then it also gets at the heart of our program and our category, which is quick burst exercise. So we did find out that someone owns the trademark for this, and we're like, oh darn. And then we are like, why don't we just see if they'd be willing to give it to us? And they did for a fee.
An undisclosed amount of money.
Yes, and we bought it from them, but I think it was completely worth it because now like we have a really strong brand that speaks energy, right? You don't have to tell someone, "Oh, my program is about energy." It's like it is energetic. It is fun. It is exciting, right? A quick burst of energy. People use that kind of language all the time. Anyway, I'm in love with the brand now. I'm not going to get like carried away in this, but like it is definitely an improvement, I think. And it's got my favorite colors. Our two primary colors are royal blue and like hot coral, and I love both of them. So it's great.
Nice. All right. So now you've got a brand that you're proud of, and you've got a brand that from customer feedback and from some of your experiences, and I know you've had conversations with investors, you've kind of had lots of conversations in and around the market, you've dialed it in, you've got this thing that you're proud of, um, and you've got a really, I think, ambitious but I think noble purpose in trying to bring the benefits of intense exercise to the masses, right? Like the results that you would get if you were working out an hour every single day, making that accessible and doable from wherever you're at. I mean, you were mentioning earlier, like whether it's at your desk or your home or whatever, and you don't get massively sweaty, so you don't have to, go shower. You can do something in a minute and kind of reach some of these intense levels of stuff happening in your body. And I think that's a good segue for you to kind of explain maybe some of the science behind, like, how does this thing that sounds too good to be true actually work? And how does 1 minute, five times throughout the day end up being the equivalent of like an hour in the gym for someone?
Totally. So that's a great question. So with these exercises, the science behind it is deep. It's stacked. And I like there are over 200 studies that we have referenced in building this fitness program, and more studies are being done on this space all the time. It was interesting. I was having a conversation with someone yesterday. A lot of fitness programs, they will start in a gym and then they will be translated into like someone will decide, oh, let me research that. I'll do a study to see if this new fitness fad is actually helpful, right? QBE is actually the reverse. Quick burst exercise started in the research sector. This started in the medical sector and has now migrating over to like the general commercial sphere. So, like, for example, there was a study that came out last October with 72,000 participants out of the UK, and they wore accelerometers to track how much high intensity exercise someone did during the day. They found that people who did 3 or 4 minutes of high intensity exercise throughout their day, just mixing it in with their routine, were 50% less likely to die from cardiovascular related diseases. So they cut
5-0.
50, right?
Oh my gosh.
It cut their
No.
likelihood of dying from cardiovascular disease in half. Okay.
Wow.
It also cut their likelihood of all cause mortality, so dying for any reason, and cancer. It cut those by 40%. 40.
Cancer by 40%.
Doing just 3 or 4 minutes of high intensity exercise will cut your cancer risk by 40%.
And how does
Okay.
that compare? Like, if someone says, any kind of exercise, just getting up and like walking every day is good too. But this seems like, I mean, someone who went for a half an hour walk is not going to get the same results. There's something unique about the intensity, even though it's not for a long duration of the QBE format.
Yeah, so that's exactly right. Someone who would do, 30 minutes, even 60 minutes of what we would call low intensity exercise a day, they're not going to see those benefits. And I know that that sounds kind of counterintuitive because it's like, I'm doing more work. Like, I should be getting benefited for working harder. And it's like, this
Yeah.
is where I wish I could tell my younger self, like, work better, not harder.
Yeah.
because it actually is true. The reason for that is these high intensity exercises, they overwhelm your mitochondria. So by the time you're done, you're totally gassed. This overwhelms your mitochondria, which, if you remember from eighth grade biology, the mitochondria make up the basal layer of your metabolism. They generate 90% of the body's power, how you move, how you breathe, digest, everything. And by overwhelming your mitochondria, that causes them to grow in size and number. So they get stronger, you have more power throughout the day. Overwhelming them in this way also causes the cells to renew themselves. And so that's what leads to this longevity, helping people live longer, healthier lives, because cancer often thrives on cells not being able to renew themselves, and they'll take over that part of the body, right? When you're constantly causing yourself to, you're renewing your cells every day, multiple times a day, that's one of the reasons for being able to keep these diseases at bay. Another reason that these exercises are so incredible, you do 1 minute of high intensity exercise where you're totally winded and really out of breath. That's going to elevate your epinephrine and growth hormone levels for up to 2 hours. This is really important because epinephrine is mimicked by so many different medications. So, caffeine is a sympathomimetic amine. Basically, it copies epinephrine. So does inhalers. When people have asthma, asthma medication mimics epinephrine. And people who are trying to stay awake, they'll oftentimes take medication that helps to, give you energy. Like ADHD medication, I think, has this. It mimics epinephrine. So all of these different medications that we have, they actually just mimic the one thing, which if you can prompt your body to make that naturally, you're going to have more energy, you're going to have better respiration, and you don't need to take medication for it.
Hmm.
Secondly, the growth hormone.
I
Growth
mean, you're
hormone.
killing the 5 hour energy, marketing people right now, but I think that's a good thing, right? I mean, let's be honest, like it's a drug that a lot of us
Mhm.
use, and caffeine is a drug that we use, and the 5 hour energy kind of high concentration of caffeine is a drug that we use. And so if we can do that naturally without becoming addicted to these external things, that's a great plan, right?
Yeah, no, totally. I agree 100%. I think it's crazy that your body is designed to work so well on its own. And that's why I get really excited about this, because it's like, this is not a premier product that only like 0.2% of the population can use, right? This is something that everyone can use. This is something that levels the playing field. And like, that's one thing that has always been very important to me personally. I need things to be fair. Like, it has to be fair, right? I don't want to have to compete against someone who's taking steroids, because that's not fair, right? I like this for fitness for everyone though, because it's like, oh, well, I don't have the time to work out, and my baby's super colicky and I never get enough sleep, so I can't go to the gym. That's not fair. I can't work out. It's not fair. And it's like, you're right. That's not fair, but burst
I've
fitness
tried
is
to convince my wife that I could look like Chris Hemsworth if I was paid to go to the gym, had a trainer, had like a nutritionist and a personal chef and everything. I could look
yeah.
like Chris Hemsworth if I had all that. And she's like,
Yes.
no, no, your face. Your face is what ruins it. And I'm like, yeah, you're right. You got me there.
Well, yeah, you would look like you with Chris Hemsworth's body.
Which, yeah, that probably would still work, I guess. Although my mom always said I had a face for radio, so
Wow. Golly.
it's just jokes. I'm just joking. Sorry, mom. Sorry, Cicely. I'm just joking. They're both kind. They're not that mean.
Yeah, you deserve to be around kind people.
So you're
And
leveling the playing field. You're making this successful for anyone and everyone. One of the questions that I had, one of the thoughts I had when you mentioned to that before is, can someone who maybe even has physical disabilities or has in a wheelchair or something like that, can they do QBE? Are there forms of quick burst exercise that someone could do even if they're not, even if they have some of these other physical challenges?
yep. And this is one where, like, I do get a little bit choked up. Sorry. I just like I've had some friends who have had issues like physically, and it's easy to get discouraged when you have injuries that prevent you from working out, and it can be like a dark place. Um and so like that's where I do get really excited because you can do this. Like I have had people all over the spectrum who have done these exercises. Like I've had people who are wheelchair bound who have had amputations. They can do these exercises because, you can even like if you can engage your legs, you can work your legs out even if you can't walk on them, right? And you can still use your arms if your legs are paralyzed, and you can engage your core as well. You like, and then also, rheumatoid arthritis is a challenge for a lot of people. And I've had people who are in their 70s and 80s, they talk about how they can do these exercises and they don't get rheumatoid arthritis attacks, because if they do any kind of weightlifting or walking or running or anything like that, it's going to cause an attack and their joints will be in just severe pain for 3 to 5 days, right? It's debilitating. But with Burst Fitness, they've been able to do these exercises and not once have they had an attack. And it just, oh, like it just makes me so happy when I hear these stories. And then pregnancy, like coming out of postpartum, being able to work out and do these exercises, even though, your ligaments are not the same. You're having trouble with your balance, your equilibrium might be off. Like there are so many things that people struggle with and they just maybe don't talk about it. But being able to do Burst Fitness, yes, anybody can do. We have adaptations out the nose for everyone to be able to do these exercises. So, anyway, I love that.
Yeah, I mean, it's such a cool part of your brand and what you're trying to do is kind of this making it accessible for almost pretty much everyone, right? That there's nobody that's excluded. Where a lot of the other fitness programs are not even possible for someone who can't walk or can't run or can't lift or other things, right? So that's awesome. Um, where do you go from here then? Like what are the next steps?
Yeah. So we're really excited because we are starting out corporate pilots. We have not done corporate yet. So most of our focus, probably 3/4 of our focus, is on direct to consumer and on giving, the world-class experience inside of our platform that we want. We've also found that there are a decent number of companies who would like to have this for their employees, so that, how many people work part-time in the office and part-time at home or full-time remotely, and it's difficult to provide them with a wellness benefit because they're not in the office, and it's different for each employee, right? So having an option like this that people can do at their desks, they can do it from home, they can, it doesn't matter where they are, they can do it anywhere. That is a really nice benefit. And so we're building out our affiliate influencer marketing program. We're including in this new build, we're also going to have word of mouth hooks. So we're going to encourage people to share this with their friends and like give a discount, get a discount type thing. And then we're also launching these corporate pilots, and we'll start building that out, helping support companies in that way. So that's kind of our go-to-market strategy. As far as the next feature sets, like I mentioned, we're going to add in the gamification, badges, coins, leaderboards, group support, things like that. And that feature set, like we've started building our dev team. We have several people working with us, and we're probably going to be hiring several more. And then as far as, fundraising, so we're building the revenue. We're working on building through these channels that I mentioned, but then also raising a round of funding for our pre-seed round. So we're targeting investors who are focused on, digital consumer fitness. And there are not a lot of people who are focused on that in Utah. That's kind of a rare bird, if not extinct here in Utah. So we're going outside of the state. We're finding people through like Crunchbase and different like repositories that show people, yes, this is who we are. And so then we're reaching out to them, trying to get warm intros. We want to find the right investor, because I feel like our business is very special, and I want someone to invest in us who sees the vision that we see, who can see the potential that this has and would not just want to make this into like a very money making machine at the expense of like providing a convenient and fun experience, right? You
Yeah.
want to find the right marriage.
Purpose driven partner, purpose driven investor that believes in the cause as much as the potential for it to be a great, monetary investment, but maybe an investment in humanity, investment in the communities that this goes into, as well as just the financial gains. And it's
Yeah.
interesting that you bring this up, as I've had this conversation multiple times already, um, through this podcast, that Utah, while it is a really great environment for B2B SaaS and tech companies, the consumer focus has been a lot more challenging. And there are a lot of really cool consumer oriented brands that have originated in Utah. I'm interviewing, all of them if possible, but I've already started to interview a lot of them on the podcast. And I want to try and help create an ecosystem here that's similar to the tech ecosystem, where there are a lot more venture capitalists and even angel investors that are focused on consumer brands and consumer products. And then when those companies are successful and can exit, they can turn around and invest in the next wave of consumer goods and consumer products, and we can create that virtuous cycle that is basically what Silicon Slopes is, for the tech sector. So I'm trying to work with investors on that. Ultimately, one of my goals is to raise my own fund, and it will have a consumer focus. I've personally invested in some consumer brands, but it is hard. It's hard in this environment, and on top of that, compared to 2021, which was very frothy from a flow of capital standpoint, I think that's all really slowed down with talks of recession. The banks like Silicon Valley Bank and all these issues, capital has really, really slowed down quite a bit. And so it's a challenging environment to raise money, not only because you're a consumer brand, but also because just at large, the investor community is a lot more conservative, a lot slower to move right now, I think.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So, talk to me, and this is kind of where we can kind of wrap up with, what has the emotional and psychological journey been like to go from, I've got an idea, I want to bring it to life, I want to create something. I know you're an incredibly driven person, but there's also the female founder kind of aspect it's more challenging than for your male counterparts. So there's that part of it too, which I think we're making progress in that direction, but it's still not equal. So talk to me about that, and then maybe we can also give a shout out to like who've been your supporters, what does your support network look like to enable you to go through the ups and downs and the roller coaster that is trying to be a consumer product creator and founder.
Yeah. Man, that's such a loaded question. So, yeah, like I mentioned, so started this whole journey when I was 23, and I was very, very optimistic. I was very naive. But I have this syndrome where it's like if I give myself enough time, I can do anything. you know, I just need enough time, right? And so that was kind of my attitude. It's like, I don't know how I'm going to make this work, but I know I'm going to make it work. So let's go. And so then you kind of go along and you're like making progress. And all along the way, I have been incredibly motivated by the things that my customers tell me. Like when you have someone who comes up to you and says, I haven't been able to work out in 10 years because of my injuries, and I can work out now. It's just like,
It's all
like,
worth it. Yeah.
and I can't tell you how many times, like, unsolicited, they'll just tell me, it's like, thank you so much for the work that you're doing and the change that you're making in this world. It means everything. And I'm just like, and I don't know how many businesses I could work on that would give that kind of validation, right? I
Yeah.
don't, I can't think of many. And so it has definitely been hard, but that's always been the North Star. It's like, I can't stop. I can't quit. Like, I know that I'm small right now, and I know that I'm not a huge company yet, but I want to give this experience that so many of these customers are telling me, and I want to give it to so many more people so that they can have the same journey, right? So that's been the motivator, but like, oh man, it's so brutal. Like, setback after setback. And I think too, like, I'm learning how to be an entrepreneur. Like, this is my first business. I've never started one before this. And there are just so many learning curves that you don't know what you don't know. So like, I've had to fire people. I've had to like build the team multiple times from the ground up. I've had to, like, I've bought multiple trademarks, worked with attorneys, set up the corporate structure. Started out, I was like our advertising person for a while. I built the entire content library from scratch by myself with a camera. I learned how to edit videos. I typed up all of the descriptions. I learned how to build recipes. Like, and I think from all of that, you kind of just you learn as you go along, like, okay, I need to do this, so I need to get the skill set associated with that, and it just kind of goes in steps. But like, the toll is definitely there. Like, I started going to therapy within the last like 7 or 8 months, just because I was just so burned out, just so tired. And I know a lot of entrepreneurs, like, when I'm open about my own story, I get so many of my friends, they'll tell me the same thing. It's like, oh yeah, I had to start therapy a year ago. I couldn't take it anymore. And I think it's healthy to kind of address like the fact that your mental health, it's okay if it takes a hit, and you're normal if that happens, not that you're weak, right?
Yeah.
Um, because like, as an athlete, mental toughness is everything. And if I don't feel like a winner, I can't be a winner.
Yeah.
And so, like, fighting with myself, like these perfectionist tendencies and this desire to win, in a lot of cases it's good, but in some cases it can be detrimental. And so like, that's what I'm learning about myself. It's like, I need to learn how to give myself grace. I need to learn how to process these negative feelings, not dismiss them, not act like they're not there, not bury them. I need to address that they are there, and be okay with that, and recognize that I am human, and these are struggles that I have, but I will be okay. Like, I will learn how to keep going. And that, I think, has been like, it's an ongoing lesson. I'm not sure I'm ever going to get out of that lesson, but I I feel like sometimes you don't know how strong you are until you just get pushed like way past where you thought you would have to stop, right? And I feel like that's been the case for me. It's like, I thought that this was my breaking point, and I'm like 2 miles that way. And I haven't had a full on breakdown yet. There've been like right. So yeah.
Well, it's fantastic. I mean, it's such a great way that you've described it. I think most entrepreneurs, stereotypically speaking, but I think like the averages kind of, confirm this, but like most entrepreneurs are, driven, probably type A, red, if we're pulling the personality kind of profiles into it. And like you said, most of those personalities, and I'll include myself in this, have traditionally, I think, historically thought of addressing mental health and talking about the challenges and admitting that it's so hard and that there's days that you just want to quit and give up. You're admitting that you're broken or that there's something wrong, and that's a hard thing to do. You don't even want to think about that. You don't want to talk about that. You don't want to address that if you're that type of a personality, where other personality types may process that kind of stuff better, and or just not even worry about it. I mean, maybe it doesn't cross their mind as much. But it's cool that in the last couple of years it's been a topic that's become way less taboo, that there are groups like Tacos Together, and that's a local one, and there's others that have come out to like help create safe spaces and create, an opportunity for people to share their stories with each other, and for peers to say like, yeah, man, that was super hard. I was in a really dark place. Um, and we can help each other through that. But even after all of that, and this is one of my goals for this podcast, is I want more people to create. I want more people to have the courage to take that leap, to say, I've got an idea, I want to bring it to life. Because even if I think they end up not accomplishing the ultimate objective or the total world domination, or maybe they don't even actually get the product to get the success that we'd all like to see, going through that creative process is a formative and powerful thing for any individual. And if you can get to the point where even one person says, that thing that you made is changing my life, or that thing that you did is so amazing, it's worth it, right? It's such a cool feeling, that creator kind of feeling. So Allison, you're awesome. It's been really cool to talk to you about this and to hear the story. It's been fun to see Faster Size kind of morph into and grow into Burst Fitness. And I think there's a lot of exciting things ahead. Um, how do people, is the app in the App Store right now? Is it ready to go? How can we, send people to you? And you mentioned that you're also raising. So, for any investors that are listening to this that think this is interesting, how do they contact you? How do they find you? How can we send traffic to you?
Yeah, that sounds great. So we're almost done getting the platform rebranded and republished as Burst Fitness. Right now, it's still Faster Size. So that's FASTERCISE, Faster Size. And that's on Apple and Google Play. So definitely can find us there. We got a free 1 month trial, so you can try it out, see how you like it. As far as investors, 100%. Probably best way is just to reach out to me with my email, which is Allison at burstfitnessapp.com. So Allison, ALLISON, at burstfitnessapp.com. And or you could just give them my phone number, but I'm not going to put that on the podcast.
Yeah, let's not throw it out there. I know how to contact you, so I can, if
Yeah.
people want to reach out to me, I can put them in contact. But I think the key parts are Burst isn't in the App Store under that name yet. So we're still, looking for the Faster Size app on the platforms. When do you anticipate the Burst app to be ready? And will it just be an auto update if you already have Faster Size?
Yeah, so it should just be an auto update, and it will probably be published in the next week or two. We're so close.
Okay, we're
Uh,
right there. Cool.
yeah.
Okay, and then website Burst Fitness app, is that ready, or is it still the website still Faster Size?
Yeah, so we have a website. It is burstfitnessapp.com. So you can go check out more there as well. We're transitioning all of our assets over, but with the website is live. So
Okay, and then are you guys managing any social profiles yet?
not really.
Okay.
We've been a little focused on the app so far.
Okay, app and website are the main things. And then email. My sister's name is Allison, but it's spelled Alyson. So I want
Oh,
to
people,
clarify
use people.
yours. Yours is Allison at burstfitnessapp.com.
Yes,
Awesome.
that is me.
Cool. You're the best. Thanks so much for being on. This has been fun.
This was great. Thanks so much.